I will be talking about euthanasia. When most of you think of euthanasia, you think of just committing suicide and taking an innocent life. But euthanasia is an act of taking someone's life to stop their pain when they're in unbearable pain. Imagine you're 94 years old and you don't know how much longer you're going to live because a doctor has just diagnosed you with cancer. You're at the brink of death and you've lost control of all of your muscles. All you do is lay in a hospital bed all day in pain. You're starting to lose your hearing, your sight, and your ability to talk. All of your friends have died, and your family are too busy to visit you, living their life. No matter how much morphine the doctor gives you, you're still in pain. Would you really want to live a life like this? Most people would say no. The medical journal found that 80% of cancer patients in the Netherlands wanted to be euthanized. This shows that a bunch of people want it. Euthanasia is not the patient's first choice, but their last available option. They don't want their medical bill to go up to their family, and they think it's easier than living the last minutes of their life in pain. Euthanasia is needed for 4 reasons. 1, the terminally ill suffer substantially, and most people don't realize how bad they are suffering. 2, the pain reduction in the medical system is inadequate. 3, euthanasia is the effective alternative to escape the pain. And 4, euthanasia will help reduce medical bills and reduces the crowding in the hospitals. In April 1st, 2002, the Euthanasia Act came into effect in the Netherlands, which made it legal for a doctor to perform euthanasia. To regulate the ending of a life by a physician at the request of the patient who is suffering unbearably without hope or relief. The Euthanasia Act specifies 6 rules that must be met in order to commit euthanasia. 1, the patient's request must be voluntary and well considered. The doctor cannot suggest at all that the patient should be euthanized. 2, the patient is suffering unbearably. 3, the patient is informed about his situation and prospects. 4, there are no reasonable alternatives to escape the pain. 5, another physician should be consulted. And 6, the termination of life should be performed with due medical care and attention. Only when the terms are met can euthanasia take place. This law shows that euthanasia has been seen to benefit people in the Netherlands. The New England Medical Journal came up with an estimate about how much money the United States would save if they made euthanasia legal. They say that the cost savings for euthanasia is based on 3 factors. 1, the number of patients who might commit suicide with the assistance of a physician. 2, the proportion of medical costs that might be saved by the use of physician-aided suicide. And 3, the total cost of medical care for patients who die. 2.7% of patients who die each year would choose physician-assisted suicide. These patients would forego an average of 4 weeks of life, and the medical cost in the last month of their life for the patient who dies is $10,000. We estimate that legalizing physician-assisted suicide and euthanasia would save approximately $627 million. Every day, thousands of animals are put to sleep and euthanized. Their owners put them to sleep because the animals are usually in a lot of pain and there's no way to stop it, and they have no money to afford proper medical care for the animal. The owners of these animals see that they are suffering a substantial amount, so most decide to put an end to their pain by taking their life. The situation that these animals are in is no different from the situation that people with terminal illness are in. The patients at the hospital are in so much pain, they just want to end their life, and do not see the point of living in pain anymore. The medical system we live in has advanced a lot, but there is no way to get rid of 100% of someone's pain without killing them or putting them in a coma. The hospitals are becoming more crowded every day, and it is harder for people to get the proper medical attention. So by legalizing euthanasia, we would open up a lot more hospitals and a lot more machines and medicine that could be used to save a person's life. Although euthanasia is looked upon as devaluing human life and killing people with no remorse, most of the people do not realize that these terminally ill people suffer a lot.
All right, if I go back over it, I can figure out what the proposition is, but I shouldn't have to work that hard. You need to make a more explicit statement of the proposition. Basically, it comes down to an argument that euthanasia is needed. And then you give us particular reasons why it's necessary. You set up a structure so it sounds like it's going to be pretty well organized. But once you get past the first point, I don't think you signpost any of those other points in the rest of the speech. And as a consequence, the material tends to run together. You need the whole issue of pain and suffering is assumed. There's no demonstration that people are suffering. It just seems to be, I mean, they're dying, clearly, but you say that they can't be medicated enough, they can't be treated enough to relieve that their quality of life is, doomed, and that's all asserted, and that's the main justification in the first part of the speech. The only other justification that you give is a financial justification, which is the thing that I think people who are concerned about the values and the ethics of euthanasia are going to be jumping up and down on, screaming about, well, wait a second, you want to make the decision about ending somebody's life because it's going to save you a little bit of money? Is that really an appropriate thing to do? And they raise that'll raise an important value question. You document, or at least you've got one source that gives us or tries to quantify the amount of money that we're going to save, and whereas I wouldn't sneeze at saving $627 million, I'm not sure that that's proportionately a large enough amount of money to allow the number of people that would be required to die in euthanasia to go ahead and have access to it. We'd have to figure out what those numbers are. It's probably in that New England Journal of Medicine study, but it's not cited there. You do make the analogy a couple of times to animals and how we relieve them, so it does. That also, I think, is both a strength and a weakness. The notion, from a value point of view, that we ought to give the same rights to humans that we at least give to animals. But of course, from the other point of view, why are we treating humans like animals? They are different in some way. So you've got a subject that's very caught up in ethical and value-laden issues. You're trying to deal with the factual points, and the two factual points, the only one that you have much data on are the cost savings. The other one you need some more proof on. All right, thank you.